Welcome to Higher Education Marketing Institute. Today we're going to tackle something that's been coming up everywhere we look. Trust, relevance, and ROI aren't just buzzwords. They're the new mode for enrollment growth. If you're still leading with generic campaigns and hoping the volume will bail you out, you're probably already behind.
There's no shortage of panic about shrinking pipelines, but what's changed is how institutions are building credibility and proving value. It's not just about what you say anymore. It's about what you can show, what's cited, and what both students and AI can verify. And the bar is a lot higher than it was even 2 years ago.
Let's start with the core argument from the latest Hemi article. Enrollment growth now favors institutions that prove value, not just promote it. That means your program pages, your outcomes, your pricing, and your reviews all need to be transparent and machine readable. If you're hiding cost or outcomes, you're basically telling prospects and AI that you can't be trusted.
And it's not just about looking good for Google. AI search engines are now a first stop for nearly half of adult learners, according to Manifera's 2026 SEO Benchmarks report. If your information isn't structured for both humans and machines, you're invisible where it counts. So, the classic question, are we building for people or for robots? The answer is yes.
Exactly. The Hemi piece makes a point that's hard to ignore. Canonical, schema-rich program hubs, think clear pricing, outcomes, and FAQs are your late-stage proof center. Reviews and third-party mentions reinforce that proof, and advisors close the loop with human follow-up. It's a trust journey, not a one-and-done campaign.
But let's talk about what that actually looks like in practice. Dr. Evan Kropp at University of Florida Distance Learning is a great case. His team right-sizes capacity, keeps alumni engaged, and runs campaigns like SEC football t-shirt giveaways. Sounds playful, but every activation is tracked. UTMs, source attribution, ROI. They know which touch points build affinity and which ones actually drive enrollment.
It's a mix of discipline and fun, and it's working. What stands out is their focus on data-informed decisions without killing the creative side. Kropp's approach pairs visible, memorable outreach with strict measurement. So, if a game day t-shirt campaign outperforms another round of digital retargeting, it gets the budget next time. There's no sacred cow here. Everything is measured.
He calls it extreme transparency. If you're not plainly listing total cost of attendance on every program page, you're sending the signal that you don't deserve a prospect's trust. That's a pretty sharp line in the sand, and it's backed up by performance. They're not just tracking web analytics, they're watching what actually converts, and they're not afraid to cut what doesn't.
It's a shift from treating engagement as the star metric. Instead, engagement is a supporting signal. The real North Stars are conversions, share of voice, and cost per enrollment. Here is where the Manifera benchmarks come in. The 2026 report argues that universal targets like CTR are basically useless because every program, every market is different.
Right, and Manifera backs that up with some hard numbers. 60% of prospective students switch between platforms while researching colleges. 40% start their search without a specific institution in mind. And here's the kicker. 68% of Google searches in the US now end without a click. So, ranking well doesn't guarantee traffic, let alone conversion.
That's why tracking program-level visibility is so important. Manifera recommends building keyword sets in Ahrefs Rank Tracker, adding 3 to 5 real competitors, and monitoring share of voice by program. For enrollment benchmarking, you calculate parity, 100 divided by the number of institutions, then compare to your IP's enrollment share. If 60% or more of your citations come from your own domain, that's a red flag. You need to diversify to show authority.
And AI visibility is a whole separate layer. The Manifera AI Index tracks how often your programs are cited or summarized by AI tools, not just traditional search. They even recommend weighing in-state competitors more heavily, since those are the schools you actually lose students to. It's a more honest benchmark.
So, if you're still reporting on engagement or click-through rates as your primary metrics, you're missing the bigger picture. The leaders are benchmarking at the program level, tracking share of voice, and focusing on true conversions. It's not about looking busy. It's about proving value where students and AI are actually paying attention.
Let's pivot to graduate enrollment for a minute, because here is where the concept of relevance really comes into focus. The 3 Enrollment Marketing Report says it flat out. Graduate enrollment doesn't have a marketing problem, it has a strategy problem. Too many institutions are trying to market every program instead of asking which ones they can actually own.
Mary Grondal at 3 Enrollment Marketing doesn't mince words. She says the greatest challenge isn't awareness, it's clarity. The institutions gaining ground are making hard choices about which programs to invest in, which to prune, and how to align with real workforce demand. It's not about louder marketing, it's about sharper positioning and execution.
Their graduate growth catalyst framework pulls in competitive analysis, labor market intelligence, and financial modeling. Instead of just running another market assessment, they help leaders decide where to focus, how to differentiate, and what those choices are likely to mean for enrollment and net revenue. It's a move away from the old "let's just add another program" mindset.
Regional schools are now competing head-to-head with national online providers for the same working professionals, while employer-sponsored education and alternative credentials keep expanding. If your portfolio is built for a world that no longer exists, no amount of marketing will save you.
And AI-powered search is only making this more acute. Students are using AI to compare programs, careers, cost, and fit, often before they even land on your site. If your differentiation isn't crystal clear and easy to find, you're not even in the conversation. It's a relevance problem, not a reach problem.
That's echoed by Eliza Austin's take in the Hemi article. Most institutions are out of sync with how students actually choose. Growth now requires realigning program offerings, pruning what doesn't fit, and crafting messaging around the real decision drivers. The days of geographic protection and long program lists as a substitute for value are over.
Let's get specific. If you're a graduate enrollment leader, your job isn't to promote everything equally. It's to make the tough calls about which programs have a sustainable advantage, which align with labor market demand, and which should be redesigned or retired. That's where the growth is coming from, even if it means a smaller catalog.
And that brings us to a critical but often overlooked point. Strategy is only half the equation. Daniel Fogarty at SUNY Empire State University argues that institutional readiness is the other half. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if your systems, people, and processes aren't ready to absorb and sustain growth, you'll stall out.
Fogarty gives some good examples. Launching a new nursing program to fill a regional shortage sounds great on paper, but can your advising, registration, and financial systems actually handle the new students? Have you engaged faculty to design flexible learning? Is your tech stack prepared for different learner needs? Too often, schools celebrate the launch and then scramble behind the scenes to deliver.
He calls this gap strategic enrollment readiness. It's about aligning people, processes, systems, and governance to deliver on institutional strategy. Strategic Enrollment Management, SEM, defines the goals. Readiness determines whether you can get there. And as enrollment strategies get more ambitious and interconnected, readiness becomes the real limiter.
This matters because most enrollment initiatives now cut across multiple departments. A new academic program isn't just an admissions project. It involves academic affairs, marketing, student services, tech, and finance. If you're not building institutional capacity alongside your strategy, you're going to hit friction.
So, if you're listening and thinking, we've got a good plan but it never seems to land, ask yourself, are we actually ready for the growth we're trying to create? Are our resources, systems, and people aligned? Or are we just hoping that the strategy will carry us through the operational chaos?
Let's bring this back to concrete takeaways. First, treat enrollment as a trust journey. Publish canonical, schema-rich program pages with transparent pricing, outcomes, and plain language FAQs. Back them up with reviews and third-party mentions. If you're not doing this, both students and AI will pass you by.
Second, pair creative, visible campaigns. Think game day shirts, alumni activations, anything that makes your brand feel alive, with strict tracking. Use UTMs, source attribution, and ROI measurement to decide what gets scaled. Don't let creativity become an excuse for not measuring impact.
Third, move away from universal benchmarks like CDR and average engagement. Benchmark at the program level. Track share of voice. Compare against parity and IPS enrollment share, and monitor AI visibility. If more than 60% of your citations are self-citations, you've got work to do.
Fourth, win on relevance, not volume. Align your program portfolio to actual labor market needs. Prune or redesign misfit programs, and craft messaging around what really drives student decisions. If you're still relying on historical reputation or a long list of offerings, you're vulnerable.
And finally, build a life cycle SEM engine that ties together admissions, aid, marketing, retention, and student services. But don't stop there. Make sure your institution is truly ready to deliver on the growth you're planning. Readiness isn't glamorous, but it's what keeps good strategies from dying on the vine.
If there's a theme across all these sources, it's that the winners show their work, track it, iterate fast, and aren't afraid to make hard choices. It's not about shouting louder, it's about being more trustworthy, more relevant, and more accountable, both to your future students and to the systems that power discovery.
And if you're still hoping for a silver bullet or a magic campaign, well, you might want to find a new hobby. Sound familiar? The work is in the details. Clarity, discipline, and the willingness to measure what matters, even if it means letting go of what used to work.
That's it for this episode of Higher Education Marketing Institute. We'll link all the source articles in the show notes. If you're wrestling with any of these challenges on your own campus, let us know what's working, where you're stuck, and what you want us to dig into next. Until next time, keep showing your work, and don't be afraid to prune.
Let's break down what showing your work looks like for a marketing or enrollment leader on the ground. It's easy to nod along with transparency and program-level benchmarks, but the minute you're trying to wrangle data from half a dozen systems or convince faculty to update program pages, reality bites. So, how do you actually operationalize this?
Start with the basics. Do a real audit of your program pages. Are tuition and fees listed in one click? Or are you burying them 3 layers deep? Do you spell out career outcomes and link to real alumni stories? Or is it just generic copy? The Manifera benchmarks make it clear that structured data and schema aren't just nice to haves for Google. They are required for AI visibility. If your site isn't machine readable, you're invisible in AI-powered search results.
But here's where it gets messy. Even schools with good intentions run into legacy systems and campus politics. The IT team owns the backend, marketing owns the copy, and academic leadership wants every program to sound like it's changing the world. It's not just about technology, there's a people problem. Here is where Daniel Fogarty's argument about readiness comes in. You can't just hand off a new SEM plan and hope for the best. You need cross-functional teams, real page governance, and a willingness to make trade-offs.
And the trade-offs get sharper as resources tighten. The 3 Enrollment Marketing Report is blunt. Sustainable enrollment growth starts with making better strategic choices about where to compete and where to invest. If you're still adding programs without pruning or redesigning, you're diluting your resources and your relevance. The Graduate Growth Catalyst framework is all about evidence-based prioritization, using labor market data, competitor analysis, and financial modeling to decide which programs deserve focus.
Let's call out the tension here. Most institutions want to be everything to everyone. The idea of cutting a program, even one with low demand, can be politically toxic. Faculty worry about jobs, alumni worry about prestige, and leadership worries about headlines. But as Mary Grandal says, the greatest challenge is clarity. If you can't articulate why a program matters and who it serves, it's probably not a growth engine.
There's a parallel here with what Dr. Evan Kropp's team does at University of Florida Distance Learning. They are not afraid to experiment with playful campaigns, but they are ruthless about measurement. If an activation doesn't move the needle, it doesn't get repeated. That discipline is what keeps the fun from turning into noise. And it's what lets them right-size capacity instead of blindly chasing more.
I want to dig in on the measurement piece. The Manifera benchmarks are clear. Stop chasing universal engagement targets. Instead, benchmark each program against 3 to 5 real competitors using tools like Ahrefs Rank Tracker. Look at share of voice, not just traffic. And for AI visibility, the Manifera AI Index can show where you're being cited, or not. If your citations are mostly from your own domain, you're not building real authority.
And don't underestimate the power of third-party proof. Reviews, media mentions, and even things like Google business profiles all feed into the trust signals that both students and AI systems use to judge credibility. If you're the only one talking about your program, you look insular. If alumni and employers are vouching for you, you look relevant and connected.
Let's talk about the practical side of shifting from impressions to outcomes. It's not just a reporting change, it's a mindset shift for the whole team. For years, digital campaigns were judged by clicks and engagement rates. Now, if an outreach doesn't translate to attract inquiry or enrollment, it's a nice to have, not a must have. That's a tough pill for some marketing teams who built their careers on engagement metrics.
It's a cultural change, for sure. But the upside is that it gives marketing more influence at the strategy table. When you can show which campaigns, channels, or programs are actually generating enrollments, and which aren't, you move from being a cost center to a growth driver. That's the kind of accountability that leadership wants, and it's what unlocks more budget for the things that work.
But you can't get there without integrating marketing, admissions, and student services. Daniel Fogarty's point about readiness is that growth initiatives rarely live in one office anymore. If you launch a new program without aligning advising, financial aid, tech, and faculty, you're setting up for frustration. The institutions that are winning are the ones building cross-functional teams and investing in project management, not just new ads.
Let's ground this in a real-world example. Say your institution wants to launch an online master's in data analytics. The marketing team can drive awareness, but if the program page doesn't list cost, outcomes, and a sample curriculum, you'll lose prospects at the research phase. If admissions doesn't have talking points about career pathways, or if advisors aren't ready to answer questions about flexibility, you'll lose them in the funnel. And if you're not tracking which channels actually generate enrollments, you'll keep spending on what feels good, not what works.
And that's not just theory. Manifera's benchmarks show that 68% of Google searches now end without a click. Students are making decisions based on what's visible in AI summaries, rankings, and third-party sites long before they ever fill out a form. If you're only optimizing for your own site, you're missing the real discovery journey.
So, the job is to make your program pages the late-stage proof center. Publish transparent pricing, clear outcomes, and frequently asked questions in plain language. Use schema to make them machine readable. Then, build a citation strategy. Get alumni and employers to review your programs. Pitch stories to local media, and make sure your Google business profile is complete. That's what earns trust, both with students and with AI.
Let's not ignore the resource constraints here. Not every institution has a full-time SEO lead or a dedicated analytics team, but you don't need a giant budget to get started. Start by auditing your top 5 programs. Are they visible in AI search? Are they cited by anyone other than your own domain? Are outcomes and pricing clear? Fix the biggest gaps first. Then, use tools like Ahrefs or Manifera's AI Index to benchmark progress.
And don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Dr. Kropp's team at UF didn't wait for every system to be perfect before launching playful campaigns. They tested, measured, and iterated. The same goes for readiness. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Start with one cross-functional project, build muscle memory, and scale what works.
I'm going to push back a little. There's a risk of over-indexing on measurement and losing the human side. If every campaign turns into a spreadsheet exercise, you can kill creativity and miss out on the intangible value of brand affinity. The Stamets case with UF shows that playful, memorable outreach matters. The trick is to measure its impact, not to stifle it. But I do worry some teams will swing too far toward data and lose the spark that makes a campaign memorable.
It's a fair concern. The best teams balance discipline with experimentation. The data tells you what's working, but you need creative risk to find new levers. That's why Kropp's model is so compelling. They let fun ideas into the mix, but only if they can be measured. If a t-shirt campaign builds alumni affinity and drives inquiries, it gets funding. If it doesn't, it's retired. No one is saying creativity is dead, just that it needs to prove its worth.
Let's turn to the question of AI's role in discovery. According to Manifera, 48% of adult learners used an AI search engine in their college search. That's not just a rounding error. If your institution isn't publishing structured, machine-readable content, you're effectively invisible to a huge chunk of your audience. And as AI summaries become more common, the gap between institutions that are cited and those that aren't will only widen.
And the implications go beyond SAR. AI discovery means that clarity and consistency are non-negotiable. If your cost, outcomes, or program details differ across platforms, you're training AI to ignore or misrepresent you. That's a recipe for lost trust. The fix is disciplined governance. Audit your citations, standardize your facts, and fix inconsistencies before they spread.
There's also a risk of overfocusing on AI and neglecting the human touch. The Hemi article is clear that advisors and real follow-up still matter. AI gets you into the conversation, but it's the human touch that closes the loop. If your admissions team isn't equipped to respond quickly and personally, you'll lose the students you worked so hard to attract.
That's why the lifecycle SEM model is so important. Marketing, admissions, aid, retention, and student services all play a role in the trust journey. The institutions that win are the ones that operate as a single system, not a collection of silos. That's what Daniel Fogarty calls strategic enrollment readiness, the capacity to absorb and sustain growth, not just generate it.
And readiness isn't just about systems, it's about culture. Are teams empowered to make decisions, share data, and learn from failure? Or does every new initiative get bogged down in approvals and turf wars? The readiness gap is often a leadership gap. Do you have the will to make hard choices and invest in cross-functional capacity?
Let's wrap with a checklist for enrollment and marketing leaders who want to operationalize these ideas. First, audit your program pages for transparency, schema, and third-party proof. Second, benchmark your top programs against real competitors using share of voice and AI visibility. Third, align your internal teams, marketing, admissions, academic affairs, for better handoffs and follow-through. Fourth, build a culture that values measurement and experimentation, not just one or the other. And finally, invest in readiness, people, processes, and systems that can deliver on your strategy.
And don't forget, relevance beats reach every time. If you're still clinging to a sprawling catalog and hoping louder marketing will save you, you're fighting the last war. The future belongs to institutions that can prove value, earn trust, and deliver on what they promise, both to students and to the algorithms that shape discovery. That means hard choices, constant iteration, and a willingness to prune what no longer serves.
That's a good place to close. If you're feeling the friction, you're not alone. Every institution is wrestling with these shifts. The difference between those who grow and those who stall comes down to clarity, readiness, and accountability. Prove your value, measure what matters, and build the systems that let you scale what works. We'll keep watching the leaders and sharing what we learn. Thanks for joining us on Higher Education Marketing Institute. Until next time, keep showing your work, and don't be afraid to make the hard calls.